how does it look from their point of view if you're not being clear on terms? Like imagine if you were flying a plane and the pilot was like, asking you questions. We're going to take off now. Is that okay? You'd be like, whoa, this guy doesn't know what he's doing. So
Shane, welcome to the podcast. Would you like to tell to the audience a little bit about you, who you are, what you do?
yeah, of course, man. And lovely to see you. And thanks very much for the opportunity to have a chat. So my name's Shane Moran. I'm a brand strategist and I help business owners get the right customer because the wrong customer is really expensive. I like worked in advertising and graphic design, and I was freelance as a graphic designer for a while. And I started to realize that the consultancy and the brand strategy uh, elevates a level of importance to the design. So it was more meaningful to do brand strategy, meaningful for clients and for me because I got to be involved in um, more conversations that direct the direction of business owners and help them more meaningfully than just visuals. And from Ireland, and I'm living in Portugal in lovely Lisbon at the moment.
How many years have you been in Lisbon?
Man, so like 2022, so like maybe 2 years, 2 and a bit years.
Okay, I thought it was longer.
Well, it's crazy because I came here. Would you believe it was because a designer you and me both know, they invited me over because I lived in Ireland before here and I just wanted to leave because opportunities and it's exciting and the weather's crap in Ireland. And someone we know, he invited me. He was like, Shane, I'll have this apartment. You can rent it from me. And I was like, oh, cool. So then I kept saving and a year and then the apartment didn't become available. So I was like, oh no, I can either go on my own or I'll just cancel it. This whole chapter. And I was like, no, I'll give it a go. So I went over on my own. I'd never been to Portugal before and I can't speak Portuguese. And and that was 2 and a bit years ago. So it's going okay, touch wood, it's okay.
Yeah. So have you learned speaking Portuguese?
I'm doing the lessons and I'm trying to, it's a very difficult language. But I could be doing better, but it's tricky. My Portuguese could be better. Totally agree. But I'm doing the lessons. I'm trying.
And like your background looks very Lisbon. Did you draw it or is what like this?
No, so Sophia is a muralist and artist, and she has these really cool just murals and designs. And a friend of mine shared me her contacts on Instagram, and I was like, "Do you want to do a wall?" And the landlords were totally fine with it. They were like, "Yeah, fine." So they painted it, and it's just really cool, and that's it. And and every time you look at it, you see something different. So it's like a Rorschach test, but in a lovely, colorful way
Mm.
rather than bleak and depressing. But uh, yeah, because it was just a white wall before, and yeah, if I'm yeah, it was, I recommend people pay artists to paint their walls if they're good.
Yeah.
Which Sophie is really good. So yeah.
Awesome. Yeah, and it's a awesome background to have. Like, I don't know if you're doing a lot of Zoom calls. So it's an awesome background to have.
Would you believe everyone says that? And it's super nice because she did a great job, and it's nice, and it's sometimes you can be talking about topics that aren't really exciting, but then if you have a lovely background, at least people get to see it and they get to, brightens up some people's day, and some people say it's really happy and nice, and it's nice to do that, and I see it too every day, so it makes me pretty happy, and I think your environment, like I work from home a lot, so having your environment, um, you know creative or encouraging or to help you along is quite important. Easier said than done because life is life, but it's cool to have bits of color and things that make you happy.
Yeah, especially like for creatives. If your working space is not inspiring, very tough to work in that environment.
Yeah, it's mad because I only know when there's something lacking after I do a few days and I feel kind of like a bit the wheels are coming off, or I feel a bit unhinged, or there's something you can't put your finger on it, but you don't know what it is. But then usually with me anyway, you go for a walk or go into nature or maybe just eat some food or have something creative or do some art or read some books or something like that. Oftentimes it's the thing that's disconnected from work, and we get in that trap where it's like I must do work, and then you forget that those creative expressions are so important for quality of life and quality of the things
Hmm.
that we do. You know.
Yeah. Yeah, I definitely agree. Man, it's also awesome to talk to you every time because you have like your accent, your
Oh,
voice. It's so cool. You could play in movies or
nice.
voiceovers. I don't know.
Nice.
It's super
Cool.
cool, man.
Thanks. Nice. Yeah. Thanks so much, Chris.
um,
Yeah.
yeah.
Cheers.
So the podcast is called Distance to Destination. The whole idea is to, like, the first question I ask always is, "What's your goal right now?" And how far are you to get there? So that what's your distance from your destination, basically.
Ultimately, long term, I'd like to be in a position where I can share the things that I've learned and maybe help people earlier on in their journey. Maybe that look like in the past that would have traditionally looked like becoming a lecturer, professor, or teacher or something like that. But I think more. Excuse me. I think these days it's not so limited to, you're not only a teacher or a professor if you're in a university. I think there's mentors and coaches, and I don't want to be a coach, but my point is being someone who helps other people in a teacher kind of role doesn't have to be limited to within the university. So traditionally I would have been like, oh, I need to get a master's or a PhD so I can go and teach. But I'd like to help people just learn the things that they want to do, either design or strategy or consultancy, communication. I think communication is so important. So I'd like to help other people who have difficulty with that. And at the moment, that's what we're trying to work with like charities and do-gooders and people who are kind of like change makers in the sense that they're doing business not just to make money, but they have something trapped inside them and they need to express it because the traditional way of working doesn't accommodate creative people or creative ideas. Not just creative people, but just like a different way of doing things, innovation and stuff. So um, I think I just want to have more conversations with creator and more conversations with people who are differently minded and run businesses and want to express that in a meaningful way. Chris, that's very rambly. I have no idea where I'm going with that.
No, that's awesome. Is there a way to, I don't know, to know when you have reached that goal of teaching other people? Like, if you will put it from 0 to 10, 10 being like you have reached your goal, where do you think you are right now?
Oh man, I'm like a bloody 3 or a 3.27. I don't know. It's
Very
mad
accurate.
because yeah, I'm definitely somewhere. I'm past the starting place.
Hmm.
Um, I think that I think I can only measure it by like the amount of people that I talk to, who can help me see what that goal is with more clarity. So if I just like I heard years ago that proximity is suggest relationship. So if you just surround yourself with the people who have what you want, then ultimately you're going to either enable them to keep succeeding, and as a byproduct you'll do good, whatever that looks like. Uh, like, yeah, work wise or fulfillment or self actualization or one of those things. But yeah, I think I can measure how close I am to getting to my goal by the quality of the environment and the people that I'm working with and helping. And yeah, it's no longer about pieces of paper in a wall that, have a documentation or a certificate or
Mm.
something. But yeah, so I guess that's kind of my rambly answer to that, I guess.
Okay. So normally, like, you will, like, before you will think about it more like a teacher, like, I need to get a specific degree in order to
Mhm.
be teaching. Now you know that these have involved, I guess, with internet and everything and technology, that you can do it without like being a teacher per se in a university, right?
Yeah. Well, that's good enough for me, but obviously to universities, that's not good enough. You need a degree or PhD or master's
Yeah,
or
yeah.
whatever. But for me, it's like the longer you work in the professional space, you build up that authority, I suppose. Like it's the personal brand. But if you keep producing content that is meaningful to the right sort of people, and that could be in the shape of a blog, just sharing the things that you've learned, or sharing the things that you've learned in that are unique to you or I, and then you just build up that credibility, but also people. You know, we like the people that we work with, and if people can see that you're trying, and maybe you don't get it right all the time, but at least that you're trying and putting stuff out there. Uh, like there's some clients I have where we can laugh now at the mistakes that were made in the past, and I think it's because it built up some of that trust where it's a topic that we can talk about and laugh about, whereas at the time it was quite serious. But I mean, this is, you know, we're not dealing with brain surgery or heart surgery. No one will die from the decisions we make.
And to be honest, for me personally, I have learned way more through like teachers in quote through the internet than the teachers I had in the university, at least for design. And I don't know if that plays a role, but as you mentioned, like you have clients, you're working, you are into like things, you know how things work, where the teachers I personally had in the university, they were like teachers. They didn't really practice what they're teaching. So it was a weird situation where it was just theoretical. And I don't know if this works in design or
But it's a
brand.
shame because
Yeah.
I totally agree. And sorry to interrupt, but I totally agree. But like some other industries, like accountancy and law firms, they have like CPD, where it's continually progressive development or whatever it is, where they're they're continually having to get credits to prove that they're keeping up to date because their industry changes. But we don't really have that in a kind of design space. And like I could probably list out 5 things that I remember from university, but I could list out like many more things that I've learned from chatting to clients or from the mistakes that I've learned. Um, I've learned so much from the people that I don't want to work with, and I'm sure it's yourself as well. You can relate to that.
Yeah.
Like,
What's the number one thing you learned from people that you don't want to work with?
oh, how important is clarity? Like communicating with like the type of presence that you have online is a signal to the right type of customers, but also the wrong type of customers. So communication starts from the very beginning, even in people in place in ways we don't consider. But things I've learned is, you know, how you show up, how you communicate, how you don't communicate, your terms and conditions, your hours of working. And that's before you even get down to how much do you want to charge? Is it, you know, like knowing your hourly rates, you know, that stuff scared the life out of me. And I don't get it right all the time still, even though I've been doing this for a few years. Um, but I think now it's cool because you get confident in your own abilities, and that means you can see these red flags a lot sooner than you could have before.
Mhm.
And yeah, and that mindset stuff is quite real. Like if you're worried about money, you know, you're going to take chances that are not chances, but they're kind of time sinks, and they're not
Mhm.
really. And if you take work, it can take you away from the opportunities that you don't know are around the corner. So having clarity internally is as important as communicating that externally. You know.
Yeah, 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 for sure. Um, so yeah, you need to clarify it. I think first to yourself what you are doing and what you are you want and what you want to do, if that makes sense. So you can
Yeah.
communicate that to the client.
Yeah, but I think it's okay not to have the answer, because there's not just one answer. There's
Hmm.
like unlimited answers. So being prepared to be wrong, but knowing that it's not forever. And I think the like permission to make mistakes is cool too. Like I don't know about you, but I'm my harshest critic. Like I will just, you know, just be quite harsh. Like if someone talked the way I do to myself or have done in the past, if someone did that to my friend, I'd be like, "Yo, shut up! What the fuck?" You know, like I'd be like, "Calm down, that's ridiculous." But we don't have that same self compassion for ourselves sometimes. But excuse me. Yeah, it's not easy, but I think just making the attempt, small steps. That's all, you know.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm definitely are like harsh to myself.
Yeah.
Even for like simple stuff, I am like very like, what the fuck are you doing, man? Just come on.
Yeah.
Keep up. Yeah.
Like it's inanimate objects. If the Bluetooth goes on my keyboard, I like lose my shit, and it's so ridiculous. It's like calm down, like. But I think as well that that can be the habits of a lifetime, not just from the first time we open Adobe or whatever. Yeah, but patience, and I think extending that to clients as well, because if we put, I think designers and creatives are so empathetic and sensitive, and being able to detect what our customer needs at the same time looking at their perspective. They have so many plates to spin. They're running a business as well,
Mm.
and how does it look from their point of view if you're not being clear on terms, or uh and by being clear on terms, that communicates confidence as well, and that makes people feel more assured. Like imagine if you were flying a plane and the pilot was like, asking you questions. We're going to take off now, is that okay? You'd be like, whoa, this guy doesn't know what he's doing. So
Yeah,
yeah.
true. Yeah, I think that's a good analogy because you just expect from the pilot to just announce some stuff and say we're gonna take off in 5 minutes, we're gonna land there, this is the weather, blah blah blah, but you don't expect him to ask you questions like that. So yeah.
You'd be very worried. Yeah, you'd be um yeah. Absolutely.
Hmm. And I remember you were doing that when I met you. I think you still do like master classes online with brand strategy, etc.
Yeah.
So you you are teaching basically already people.
Oh man, I didn't think of that. Yeah, maybe in a sense, yes. Yeah, thanks, Chris. I guess so. Yeah, it's a good way. It's a really good like refresher as well, because what we do can become like a bit blurry with time because we just do it and it becomes automated. But the cool thing about doing those master classes or blogs or little videos or YouTube clips, we have to uh, condense what we do in a short form content. And that means we have to revise and look up and prepare and practice that communication. Because um, there's a cool quote from Faris Jacob, who wrote that cool book called Paid Attention, which is really useful for writing briefs. But he said that, and maybe I'm paraphrasing, but he said that time is the most sincerest gift we can give someone. Um,
Hmm.
I think I need to check that out to make sure it's him. But like if someone's attending a webinar or something that you're doing, or even listening to this, um, it's to present information to them in a really nice and digestible way. Is really respectful. But also you need to have your shit together to prepare it. Preparation. Um, yeah. What there's that expression. Uh, what is it? Fuck. Uh, Preparation prevents piss poor performance. Where it's like if
Mm,
you
okay.
prepare, it's things aren't going to go terrible if you're really prepared. And if they are, a friend of mine, he does strategy courses. Julian Cole is his name. He's really cool and knowledgeable, and he did this thing where he was doing a webinar recently, and he said that he was allowing himself 5 mistakes at the start. And I was like, oh my God, that's so nice. And he said it to everyone at the webinar. So it's already, you know, uh, injecting that sense of we're talking to a human. So, yeah.
Yeah,
And
that's awesome to allow yourself to have like 5 mistakes. Um, because I think I wouldn't allow this to myself, to be honest.
no,
So it's like he's giving you permission to do those mistakes.
yeah, because like you're human at the end of the day.
Mm.
And I think with social media and all the stuff that we see, we're seeing the end product. We're not seeing all the work that goes in the background. Like you, fair play to you, Chris. You'll have to all the work that you have to do in the background to this and edit and chop up and communicate and design thumbnails, and there's so much more. And I think uh, clients don't see that as well when they work with designers, that it's not just a call and the call and the emails. There's also all the work in the background, and then it's it's what we it's far more than just the surface level. It's all the stuff underneath that a lot of people don't see.
So I have a section in the podcast where I ask 3 random fast questions, and you can answer with whatever pops in your mind first,
No.
and then you can expand on this. But yeah, feel free to say
Okay.
whatever pops in your mind.
No, you might regret
Uh,
that, but okay.
why?
You never know if this is like some psychological test. Then
No, no.
who knows?
So first question is, which is your favorite book?
Recently, I read this book by Rachel Dawes. It's using semiotics in marketing. Really, that's boring. And no, I can't say it's boring because it's cool as shit. But it's semiotics. It's the study of signs and symbols in marketing, which is to designers and people who work in that space. It's really fascinating. But she's a really good writer. But I don't know if I could say that's like my favorite. Shit, man, that's a hard question. I don't know. No, because I'm looking at my books over there. Um, what's my favorite book? Fiction or nonfiction?
Oh, whatever you want. It's
Oh
up to
no, you
you.
can't say that. Um, that's like asking what's your favorite film? Well,
What's
no,
your
I mean,
what's your
what's your
favorite
favorite?
film?
What's your favorite film, Chris?
My favorite film.
Yeah.
Um, I will probably say Fight Club, just
Oh,
because I can
cool.
see it again and again without being 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 boring. What's your favorite
Mm.
one?
Oh, Train Spotting, easy. Train. I love. Have you seen Train Spotting before?
No, but
Okay, so
it's in the
Trainspotting's
list.
cool. It's like 95, 96 maybe. And it's set in Scotland and it's all about heroin and the people that it's affected. It's originally a book by Irvine Welsh. It's
Okay.
set in Scotland like in the 90s and it's a time without any hope. And it's people who have the least hope of all, those that are addicted to heroin. And it's a dark comedy, no less. So, and the music is amazing. Soundtrack's absolutely banging. And the art style of the posters is quite famous as well. It's got that orange and white, and it's kind of like what do you call it when people are like in a police station and they're lined up against a wall? You know that kind
Oh
of
yeah, yeah,
line
yeah,
up?
yeah, yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
So that's quite cool. And the soundtrack was so good that they had 2 albums for the soundtrack, and yeah, really good. Yeah, that's my favorite.
Okay. Um, I'm gonna take this as the first question then,
Please,
as
please,
the
yeah,
answer.
please do. And I'm going to send you a
um,
info about Trainspotting because you need to watch it.
yeah, yeah, yeah. Please, please do. About the book, is it a new book or is it an old one about the
So,
semiotics in marketing?
so using semiotics in marketing, that is the year 2000. It was actually it's by Rachel Laws, and I heard about that book because of Ian Paget of Logo Geek.
Oh yeah.
He interviewed her, and it was such a good interview, and she was brilliant and really funny, and Ian's quite good too. And it's a fantastic book because like semiotics is the study of signs and symbols, but not all signs are visual. And an example of what I mean by that is like in 2020, a huge workforce started working from home for the first time before, and
Mhm.
that was a sign of a global pandemic where work became decentralized. So those kind of trends and habits, and that's really fascinating, especially if you're doing a deep dive into customers and trying to do research and market research, interviewing customers, but also, future customers or whatever, or employees. Um, and it's fascinating because communication and the signals and the qualities we as human beings attribute to or assign, because meaning is completely subjective. What you love, I might opposite, and
Mhm.
and vice versa. But it's that social contract that we all make, where this thing is this, and we all agree, and it's all just make pretend. It's all make believe. It's just pretend. It's like it's completely subjective. So I would recommend using semiotics in marketing. And Rachel has another book as well, which I think is about like top shelf packaging and stuff. I've not read that, but if it's as good as that first book I mentioned, then I'm sure it's brilliant.
Yeah, because I think about semiotic and the first thing that pops in my mind is like design or branding or stuff like that.
Mm.
But I never thought about marketing, so that was like an interesting title for me.
Yeah,
Um,
and there's a cool chapter in it where she talks about like, memes and emojis and GIFs, things that we
mm,
use as communication tools are so powerful because they can have multiple meanings. They can ultimately tell the story of paragraphs, but it just takes seconds for us to decipher the meaning of these images. And I think that is just powerful, especially if you work like we do in the communication space, where that line I said to you before about attention is the sincerest gift you can give anyone. So we have to craft a message that is really succinct, powerfully succinct, and easy for people to figure out in as short as time as possible. And we use tools like design, and that can come in many different formats, video or graphic design or whatever, sound, whatever. So, communication, uh, how important, I mean, how important is that as us as a species,
yeah, 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 yeah. By the way, since you mentioned Ian from Logo Geek, he come up with a book recently. I don't know if you got it.
No,
Uh,
I didn't get it. I saw it though, and he did the Kickstarter.
yeah,
Did
yeah,
did
yeah.
you read it yourself? I haven't picked up a
I
copy.
got it. I haven't started yet, but it looks kind of interesting. It's wait, make a living designing logos. This one.
Nice, cool,
Um,
nice.
but it's not like a like step by step. It's more his perspective on it, so it's kind of interesting.
Is it does it read like a blog, or is there loads of images, or what's it like?
Yeah, it's not so much text.
Hmm.
You have images.
Cool. Nice. Good for him.
Yeah, so it's not like it's like big, but it's not so heavy. Reading.
There's a fantastic book. When I was an intern working at GameStop, I used to listen to podcasts on the way to work and read books just about graphic design, just to try and skill up. And there was a cool book called Know Your Onions. Oh man, like that book, it taught me, and I can't remember the author. I'm gonna look it up real quick, but it taught me the value of these mundane and boring things which are vital to business, especially if you're working as an in-house graphic designer. And what an example of that would be um naming structure or folder structures, naming stuff like that, like
Okay.
things you don't think of. Know your onions. Let me just look up who that is.
Oh, that's cool.
Yeah, fantastic. I love that. And it was similar to the Ian's book there that you showed, because it's not like an academic tome. And I think the academic world can be quite, as we talked about earlier, it can be a bit rigid, and the greatest learning doesn't happen in the classroom. So yeah, Know Your Onions by Drew De Soto. Brilliant book.
Hmm.
Really, really
Okay.
good.
Awesome. Second book for the audience to
There you
have.
go.
I'm gonna go to the second question, which is what types of people inspire you?
People who make you feel like you are important or valuable, even if you're probably never going to see them again. People who give you your time, and uh, yeah, um, yeah, people who are really genuine. Um, yeah, I really appreciate that, and people who talk to you like you're an absolute equal, regardless of the station that you have. I think that's really nice and a lovely quality.
Yeah, yeah, for sure. Like especially if they're like very successful
Mhm.
and they still like talking to people and like being like a normal person. I
Yeah.
think those kind of people are like very cool.
Yeah, I'm very lucky in that regard because I don't, most of the people I know, or most of the people who stayed in my life, are actually kind of like that. And I don't know many people who are uh, jerks too much. Maybe
Yeah,
I,
that's no, I think that's probably because you are filtering them out, even if you don't think you're doing it. Um, and I guess like most people, like if they don't like connect, if they don't have the chemistry, you're gonna part ways. And yeah,
Yeah, well, I guess it goes back to that communication stuff again. We give
Mhm.
off these all these signals, and a lot of the time it's just passive, and we're not aware of it, perhaps.
Yeah,
But
yeah. Hmm.
pretty cool. I love it.
Yeah, for sure. And last question is, what is the country you will want to travel the most?
I really like Europe. Um, I think it's quite like in such a small part of the world. There's so many different countries, but I think I've always been drawn to Russia and the far. Well, yeah, if we're picking a country, I suppose Russia because it's so stark and parts of it seem really unforgiving and cold and beautiful in a real barren way. Uh, the influence it's had on literature is amazing, like from Tolstoy and Dostoevsky and so many others. The history of it, a lot of people don't realize that the Wild Wild West in America at the time, but at that same time in Russia, they had just wild, crazy times where there was religious zealotry going around, like mobs of monks, and like that whole drama with the revolution, and constructivism was a cool kind of art movement that was really important, and it got cut short by politics and cultural upheaval, but it influenced Bauhaus, which had a knock-on effect for Europe and industry and our whole world really.
They look like very tough people, and I think it's probably because of the. It's a very tough country to live in. Like as you said, very unforgiving, very cold, very. Yeah.
Yeah, but there was some like obviously it's completely changed now politically the landscape, but there was some really cool graphic design studios that were there.
Mm.
Shuka was one I really liked, Shuka, and they did a fantastic rebrand of chess tournaments back in was it 2018 or 19? And it was so stark and black and white and kind of weird but kind of cool at the same time. I love that, and they were taking a risk and I think they had the perfect client. Well, um, they had a client who trusted them enough to take something that we think we know, which is chess. We think boring guys playing chess and whatever, but they really made it actually kind of something that we've never perceived chess to be, which is kind of a bit sexualized and strange and very cool and exciting. And I like that, and I like their logos because they're strong and dark and weird. But yeah, very cool.
Mm. Okay. That's actually very interesting. I
Yeah.
should check them out.
Oh, do it, man.
Yeah,
Unfortunately, I don't think we'll be going to Russia anytime soon, but
yeah. Are you traveling a lot?
no, the opposite. I just stay in Lisbon and I love it and I live here. Uh, I travel to different parts of Portugal sometimes for business, which is kind of like fun as well, of course. Different parts of Portugal, be in the north in Porto, or I'd like to go to Braga, which is up there as well, and just like to see more. Actually sorry, I just remember I'm off to Spain for a little while at the end of well, I don't know, March or February maybe, and that'll be fun. And I was back home in Ireland before the new year, but that doesn't really count as travel because that's like seeing family and stuff.
Mm. But you do travel. Like you are in a new country.
Oh yeah, yeah.
You need to
Yeah.
explore it. So
Yeah.
it's a part of it.
Very true.
Um,
Yeah.
yeah. Any other countries that you would like to visit?
Oh, I'd love to go to Vietnam. You're the expert on Vietnam.
I know,
Um,
but yeah.
you've been there. How many times have you been there?
No, only once.
Only once. Cool.
Yeah,
Well,
yeah.
hopefully again soon.
Yeah, I would love to go back and stay for I don't know a year or something like that,
Nice.
and be able to travel also around, like use it as a base, and then travel to the countries around because then the tickets are very cheap to go to other countries.
There's a really cool tattoo artist in. I think I
Yeah,
shared you. Yeah.
yeah. This is what I actually wanted to mention. So yeah, please go on.
Mate, love his stuff. So cool and strange and so talented. I'd love to go over one little life ambition. Well, I got a few little dreams, but one of them be go over to Vietnam and get a tattoo by that guy, and that would be so cool. I'd love
Hmm.
that. Yeah.
Yeah, I think I started doing that at some point where I realized I wanted a tattoo, where I just collected all my favorite artists from around
Mm.
the world. I don't have anyone in Greece, maybe one. So my idea was like, if I ever travel to that country and stay for at least, I don't know, a few weeks or a month, I will go there and do a tattoo at that artist.
Man, it's like a
Uh,
tattoo passport. That's you
yeah,
know getting stamps, but in different countries. But it's instead of the passport,
yeah,
it's you getting
yeah. I
branded.
actually did it in France.
Nice.
I think 2 years ago, where I traveled. I stayed there for 3 months. So I went to that guy and I did my first tattoo basically. I do
Sweet.
have one in
Where
Vietnam,
where in France did you go?
in Paris.
Nice, cool. What's the tattoo? I haven't seen that, have I? Probably.
It's I don't know if you can see.
Oh, I
So it's
see this
like
one. That's cool. Nice.
yeah.
Lovely. Did you do that in one day?
No, it was 3 sessions.
Three. Nice. In
Yeah.
in the one time that you were there in France.
Yeah. But I was
Nice.
there for 3 months, so I
Ah, yes,
did
yes,
have
yes.
time to do it. Like if
Yeah.
I go to another like I would also like to go to Japan and do like the traditional tattoo with a poke and stick, like
Yes,
the
yes.
old school one. But I'm not. I don't think I'm gonna stay in Japan for a long time, so it's gonna probably be like a smaller one.
Well, that's cool too. If you get lots of different smaller ones, I'm recently come onto the value of small tattoos because I'm at the stage now where I have a few and I don't really like, your first few tattoos, they're like, oh no, it's really meaningful and nice. Now I'm like, I don't care, just I'd like a cool tattoo, please. So I think the small ones are cool because you can do them in an hour or two and then just go on and live your life.
Yeah, yeah,
And
yeah.
it's because uh yeah, I've done one. I did one. I got one in Porto that was really cool, and I had to tap out. I think I did 5 hours, and I was like, I can't do anymore, and I felt like such a weakling. But did it another day afterwards. But that was cool.
I think it's yeah, I think the sessions that I was doing was like 5 to 6 hours. There's probably a limit to your body on how much it can take.
Yeah. Mm.
Because I remember like in the first 10 minutes maybe it hurts more, but after that point it's like I'm okay. And then after 5 hours it starts hurting again. So any interesting tattoos you're besides Vietnam that you would like to do?
Man, I'd love more. I'd love to get more. I got this one by Cathy
Ah,
in
cool.
she's in Porto, and I got a big empty space there. So I'd like to do
Oh.
that. I was chatting to you about Greek mythology, and I'm reading this cool book, Mythos by Stephen Fry, and I read this section in it about Prometheus who stole fire from the gods. And it wasn't just fire as in fire to enable us to, heat food and stuff like that, but it was also creativity. So the fire is quite cool. So maybe something like, an evil looking hand stealing fire, because I like evilly looking cool
Mm.
stuff. And that artist, Cathy, she does kind of trippy, cool style stuff.
Yeah.
So maybe something like that, because her style, I like strange.
It reminds me of a friend of mine that does exactly those kind of stuff.
Cool.
Which is like I love this style. It's pretty cool.
Nice. Yeah,
Yeah,
me too.
yeah.
It's like things that are deteriorating or slipping away or fragmented
Yeah,
or
yeah,
something. I
yeah.
love that shit. I think it's really cool.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And actually that's one thing that I realized about tattoos. I don't really want to interfere with the artist. Like I like the this style. Just that's my idea. Just do whatever you want. That's my
Mm,
approach now. So I think it goes to the thing that you said before about being small. So if I go to Japan and the guy does do like the whole back of people and I just ask for a small one, I'm gonna feel that I'm limiting his skills, if
yeah.
that makes sense.
It does, but I mean, like yourself, you don't want to be the type of client that is literally forcing the person to forcing your vision of what it looks like on the artist. And a lot of tattoo artists I've chatted to were formerly like graphic designers and stuff. So, and I think you have to have trust in the person doing it. And, they're creative people. They want to do something cool, just like us, obviously, because we're all people. But, if you have a cool artist and you trust them, why would you get in their way? Let them do the cool stuff. And you with the perfect example of the if someone only wants to do big projects and you're like, I only want a small project, how you're going to meet in the middle and what that looks like, if it looks like it'll work, is part of the challenge.
And definitely translates also to our business, I guess. Like if you want to do like one type of business and then clients ask for something completely different from what you want to do, I'm not sure how this is gonna translate at the end result.
Yeah, well, I think that's where the communication again, maybe, at the beginning and throughout the process as well. Like if you're working on a deliverable and you've kind of gone off brief a bit, the client who we always paint as the baddie is not that. Their job is they're investing in your success literally and metaphorically in another way. But they can be useful. And then I guess that's the value of a good brief, that it's a reference point. Having too many options is too many pieces of the project, which is complicated, and then that can really damage the quality of the output.
I want to ask you about, since you were talking about traveling, etc. You moved from Ireland to Portugal. Any tips on moving to another country for working? How you did it, basically?
Things I wish I knew, I guess, would be to connect with the Facebook groups. I think are good, even if you don't use Facebook that much. But joining those kinds of groups in the country that you're about to go to would be very helpful, because you get to see the challenges that people are experiencing there, be it legal stuff, trying to set up as a freelancer in a different country from one to the other, and those legal kind of pitfalls that some of us can fall into. What else? Getting advice from people who've been there before. What else? Finding out about like the weather. Sounds really basic, but like I'm in Portugal and everyone thinks, oh, it's really sunny all the time. And they get rain. It's cold sometimes, but that means you're dressing appropriate. You see all these tourists, and they're mostly English, but they show up and they're wearing like shorts, and it's like, man, it's not that warm. But that's fine, whatever. Learning a few key phrases, how important and how appreciated that is, especially if it's a different language speaking place from where you're from. Um, and there's some really cool websites for finding the like cost of living. I think that can be really helpful so you don't get like ripped off. Uh, I think if you just type into Google like cost of living index maybe, and you can see stuff, so that puts things in a nice comparison for yourself. And what else? And yeah, maybe checking out the news, because and public holidays, being aware of them in different countries can be very helpful. Because if you have plans on a Monday and you don't know that it's actually bank holiday, then your plans are screwed.
Mm. Yeah. Okay, yeah. I've some of them I've never thought of, like the holidays. Never occurred to me. So that's
No,
interesting.
it
Yeah.
it blew my mind that in Portugal they have bank holidays on Thursdays, whereas in Ireland we would never do that. We have bank holidays either on a Friday or a Monday, and here they have them in the middle of the week.
And also, you mentioned like check out the cost of living, because I think like sometimes we compare, like maybe you find a job overseas and you think, oh, that's a lot of money compared to the job I have in my country. But then you get there and like most of it goes to the house you're renting and you realize you're not making any profit. So yeah, checking out the cost of living is super important.
Yeah, and public transport or infrastructure as well. So like Google Map, if we look at it too much, we forget that like we're looking at a flat map and we don't realize that, no, not countries are all flat. Like
Mm.
Lisbon, there's 7 hills. Like you're walking a lot. Like, so if you look at Google Map, it's like, oh, it's only here to there. That's fine. And it's like, no, mate, it's loads of hills. But I like walking, so it's fine.
Mm. Yeah, that's true, because it's you look at it and it's like, ah, that's just 2 kilometers. I can do it, and then it's like a huge hill, and it's two
Yeah.
kilometers.
I say I like walking, but I must put a disclaimer on that. Like sometimes if you're walking and you're carrying stuff, Like I moved and I was really
Mm.
helpful. I had a friend with a car because I before I moved there, I was in a different place and it's just like, and oh, it's very painful and it's quite like quite stressful.
So did you move there like being a freelancer, or you had like the job already? You had the deal before going.
I had nothing. I had a few clients and I was worried that I was going to lose them if I told them I was moving to Portugal. And it was really funny because I was working with these two insurance brokerage firms and they were my clients. We were going through a rebrand. It was quite cool. And I was worried. I'm like, um, I before moving over, I was like, oh man, if I tell these guys that I'm moving to Portugal, they're probably gonna hate it because we don't get to see each other and blah blah. And it was just at the tail end of 2020, so COVID was kind of still obviously in our minds. So that remote working was a very different world. But I moved over here and I told them before, I probably did. And they were like, I remember I said to them, by the way, guys, I'm going to Portugal and just let's have a conversation about that because I don't think it'll interfere with our working relationship. Is there anything you'd like to talk about? And they said, no, sure, I'm over in Portugal as well. So it was so crazy that the client was there too. So I was like,
Wow.
cool, yeah. So it was fun. But I had a few bits of work. And of course, life being life, I had a few clients in the pipeline, but what happened is those clients they didn't work out. So I had a real big gap. So it was quite tenuous. I was quite stressed and worried, and I underestimated how stressful moving actually is. Well, moving to a different country,
Mm.
and I completely overlooked that. So that was I wouldn't suggest that, but it's part of the learning curve, I guess.
When you moved, did you bring a lot of stuff?
No, no, I brought like a maybe one big suitcase and then like rucksack and stuff and
Okay.
just travel light.
Laptop, or do you have
Yeah,
a computer? Yeah.
laptop, iPad, and just the essentials. Yeah, it was a very basic,
Mm.
really helpful.
Okay.
Yeah, I stayed in an Airbnb for the first 5 weeks, and then and that was kind of the period of time to really test and see what this was like, and just to see. And then I was like, okay, I'll live in a shared house for a few months and see what happens there. Because like in Europe, sharing houses is kind of the norm, I guess. Since it depends what stage in your life you're at, I suppose. But and then I was like, cool, I'll give this a go. And then it turned into 6 months, and then another 6 months, and then here you go.
So how did you find the shared houses? Is it again through Facebook, or do they have a specific page?
Yeah, there's particular websites. Idealista is the one here in Portugal that's useful for finding places, but there's Facebook groups that are quite useful sometimes. I use them in Dublin, um, I think. And but yeah, there's just whatever country you're moving to. That's another top tip, I guess. See what the best websites are for finding accommodation, long-term accommodation. There's a lot of scammy ones out there, and on the Facebook groups there can be a lot of scammers as well. So being extra mindful, doing your homework.
Hmm.
Sounds really basic, but it's really important.
Have you find yourself into a scam at any point, or
No,
avoided
thank
it in
God.
somehow? Yeah.
No, no, I've been lucky in that way. Um, yeah, no, 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 didn't get scammed. Not that I'm aware of. And if I have, it hasn't happened yet, but not yet. Hopefully, touch wood, it doesn't happen.
How did you manage freelance in the beginning, since you are moving? Things haven't worked out with some clients. Any tips there?
Finding what business networks are in the country before you move there so you could find out what are really useful. I joined a really cool one here in Portugal and I joined it like 3 months before I moved over. And that was really cool because I got to connect with a few people and that was lovely. And everyone's really nice and helpful. Most people want to help if you give them the opportunity to let them know who you are and what you're about, and then, build a relationship over time. Um, and yeah, and being a bit more direct and asking and making content and having conversations about what you do, that was critical. And you meet some nice people, and yeah, I owe everything to networks and people that I meet and stuff. So yeah.
Hmm. So you were just putting yourself out there, and people were like discovering you what you do and help
Yeah,
you. Hmm.
yeah, I guess so. Well, I mean, help each other. They bring value and you help them in a way as well. But yeah, join networks and just finding out, what you can do to help, or what's a meaningful interaction, asking for work and kind of putting yourself out there, but just doing it little steps at a time. Sending messages on LinkedIn and not having that generic, copy and paste and kind of ask the way of doing stuff. I used to always think freelancing to some extent is kind of like fishing sometimes. You're like just throwing it out. Sometimes something comes back, sometimes it doesn't. But I know for a lot of people, having that process nailed and making it almost automated through CRMs and stuff, and I guess when you're at that stage, that's an option too. But yeah.
Okay, so most of your networking was through LinkedIn.
Well, my networking is face to face primarily. That's the best
Oh,
thing.
okay, okay. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, yeah. Yeah, I mean, COVID obviously 2020, that made us have to rely on online meetings, which is fine. But the best is face to face events, actually shaking hands and having a chat and having a laugh and seeing if you get along with these people as people first. And then everything else just happens naturally afterwards. Um, uh, it's never worked for me to kind of force what I want to happen on the world, so I just go along, uh, and I'm curious about people and where they're from and what they do. The cool thing about what I do is I get a glimpse at these business owners' way of working and what gets them excited. And that's so cool because I get to get a glimpse of what excites them. And in turn, that makes me so excited because I get to learn stuff I didn't know anything about. This could be the various industries of clients that I've had, be it kind of the manufacturing, the hardware, software, operations, law, consultancy. These things I didn't know much about before, but and still don't compared to the lovely clients that I've worked with. But I get to learn a little snapshot, and that is so cool because what they do is really important. And if you didn't know before, by asking questions, you get to reveal why it's important, and that's super cool.
Yeah, I see. Um, I want to go back to the beginning where you said about teaching people. Do you have a specific audience that you love to teach to? Is it like other designers? Is it business owners? What kind of people are you looking
Yeah, I
for?
never thought of what kind of people I'd like to kind of teach or help before. I know what type of customers I'd like and what kind I'd like to more of. But that's kind of different because that's a client contractor consultant kind of relationship, which is different in a teacher thing. Um, I guess someone who's patient enough to realize they don't know all the answers, but are willing to listen to someone they trust. That's the type of people I'd like to,
Mm,
uh, have a conversation with. I don't know if teach is the right word, but just like, yeah, like just talk about cool case studies, examples of when marketing, branding, design came into like really solve a problem, and just examining that and talking about that. And when you ask one question, then you just see all these other things as well. And I think that is just kind of lovely.
okay. And you mentioned you are around 3.5 out of 10. What will you say is the biggest challenge right now to get to 10?
What I would like is clarity on programs and projects and schemes that exist in the world where I could travel abroad and maybe upskill or learn or connect, or really leave an impression on a cohort or group of people, find out about travel options, or um, find out what initiatives or schemes, because there's all these cool, exciting projects, especially in Europe, that are available. And it's not like they're top secret. A lot of them you just need to know what they're called or how to look them up. So I'd love to find out more about possibly in Europe or anywhere really, and just see what kind of projects exist out there, because there's a lot of projects, and it's finding the right ones. Because if you find the right project that you want to be involved with, then that means you're edging closer to the type of people that you'd like to have relationships with, like work wise and stuff. So
So we are almost in the end. What's the best place for people to find you?
LinkedIn is the best way to contact me. It's if you type in Shane Moran, that's ShaneMoran, and yeah, that's me.
I will have also your links on the description, website, etc. So they can connect with you on LinkedIn.
Sweet.
Is there anything I should have asked you and I didn't?
No, but I'd like to go on a little ramble about Bloody Lovely, since they're super nice and I work with them.
Man, I totally forgot about that. I wanted to ask you about them because, first of all, they have a very cool name.
Yeah.
So, yeah, go on.
Sweet, yeah. So yeah, while I work freelance as a brand strategist and designer, I joined up with my really good friend Dan Edwards and his team, which of course is Holly and Jordan, and they're like a collective. It's an agency called Bloody Lovely, and they specialize in branding for change makers. And I should say, I mean we, because I'm part of the team as well, and we work with like really uh, passion-led change makers who do business, are not obsessed just about making money, but also making a positive impact, doing it in a meaningful way, and communicating that to the right sort of people. Really, really cool work. The name's lovely, Bloody Lovely. It's got like real character and soul. I was always worried about using the word soul in the kind of the brand space, but because it can mean many different things to many different people. But with Bloody Lovely, it's authentic and genuine, and ideally want to connect with people that are like in a charity space, or are curious about having accessibility led initiatives and really communicating that in an exciting way, giving everyone the best foot forward, and doing so in a really empowering and elevating their brand in a meaningful way, from workshops that really get team alignment to design or to messaging and communication. Yeah, so like about 7 months ago, I joined forces with Bloody Lovely, which is led by my good friend Dan Edwards, and the team, which is Jordan and Holly, of course, who are really important. And the four of us work together to connect with businesses that are doing meaningful change and want to really elevate their brand in and lead accessible change, which includes and gives everyone the same chance at success, and really, really bringing people to a heightened platform, giving them the best chance of success. We do workshops with brands, helping them get team alignment, getting their vision back on track, working with some cool clients. We do design, of course, and also a lot more messaging as well, which is like really figuring out what makes a business different in a meaningful way, and then finding those really core change making principles and just heightening it, so we can help those who do good to do better. And I really love working with Bloody Lovely, because it's get to learn all the time, and they're a great bunch of people, and super excited for what happens next. It's really cool.
Awesome. It sounds very awesome. Must be wonderful working there. It sounds like a very cool environment to be in.
It's mad because the environment is the cause, because we're all remote. So having a chat with them is quite cool, because the work is meaningful. And you know what it's like when you're working with clients and they're like, just wants the cost to be the main motivation for change. And I get it, cost is huge. But when you're doing meaningful work, and there's that room for self-development as a person, and having that in a team, it's really bloody special. And yeah, and you don't get that with everyone you work with. So I'm very lucky.
Yeah, that's pretty cool, man. I think I need to mention that. So I had an issue with my camera, and you mentioned you quit smoking and drinking.
Oh, yeah.
And a lot of times I talk with people about design and stuff and business, but I think it's a huge part of like being healthy It's a huge part, and it's definitely affect you in the business part as well. So yeah, I just want to mention it that you did that, man. Pretty cool. Good for you.
Yeah. Oh, thank you so much, man.
How do you
Yes,
feel? How long have you been?
I haven't drank or smoked in 17 months. 16 months? No, 16, 17 months, I should know. But yeah, I love it, man. It's really, really cool. And I hope I can continue it. And yeah, it was just the drink in particular. Obviously, I'm stereotypically Irish, so there's all those stereotypes there. I'm aware of that. But for me, it was just stopped working long time ago, and I didn't need to do it, but I kept doing it because it was a pattern of behavior. And then yeah, I stopped and connected with people and kind of changed my life in a real positive way, and got a good great network of people. And it's sober led, because like, how are you supposed to make really important life decisions if you're hungover or pissed? And it kind of clashes with this life that you want to build versus this habit that you form and keep going. And the smoking was the same. So yeah, I stopped that and love it. I can do a lot more. Skin's better, hopefully. And yeah, quality of life is a lot better. I would recommend it.
Awesome, man. Awesome.
Yeah.
And yeah, as you mentioned, I think it's like habit at the end. We keep doing those things because it's a habit, and you don't even know why. So that's
Said something interesting where it's a habit and we don't know why. I think I think I said earlier, there's not one answer, but there's many answers. And I think if we examine that and do some uncomfortable work and start thinking about, why do I drink this much? And like and kind of examine it and look at it, not just from a God, I'm a piece of shit. Why am I doing this? But more from a nice place, going, well, removing the baggage and looking at it and going, why do I drink this much?
mm,
And so I had a few moments like that many times over the years. And yeah, and the cool thing about patterns and habits is they can be changed and they can be,
mhm.
stopped or whatever.
Yeah, for sure. And I'm guessing you're probably walking up the hills now way easier than you did
Oh
before.
yeah. Like not having to have a pit stop halfway through. I've done that walking up a hill and just going, "Oh, I need to have a cigarette." And it's completely counterproductive, but you don't care how ridiculous it looks because you just want it. But yeah, the hills are a bit kinder, thank God. Yeah.
That's amazing, man. Awesome. Good for you. Happy to hear that.
Cheers, dude.
Um, at the end, I always ask, is there anyone that you want to shout out that I should bring the podcast that he will be a good fit for maybe the next episode?
Oh mate, yeah, there's loads of people I could think of. There's Dan Edwards, who is the founder of Bloody Lovely. I think you should definitely have a chat with him. Julian Cole, who is in Lisbon as well. He does a strategy course. He's absolutely lovely. And who else? Man, I'll think of some people. Yeah, no problem.
Oh man, thank you. You already said two, but I think I'm pretty interesting to learn about them and their story. So that's awesome. Thank you
Yeah,
for
no problem,
that.
man. Well, thank you as well, Chris. It was nice to connect and to connect it in a more meaningful way. So this is a great idea with the video stuff. It's always lovely to chat to you, and yeah, thanks for reaching out and making it happen. Thank you.
Thank you, man. Thank you. You're always welcome to come back to the podcast wherever you are.
Sweet. Thank you.